On April 29th, 1992, the city of LA would erupt into a 4-day period of pure chaos. The City of Angels would look like a description from Dante's Inferno. The LA riots would change the city of Los Angeles forever. But in order to know how it changed, we must first look at why it happened. Rodney King is a name that has gone down in history as the catalyst of the riots. On March 3rd, 1991, he was pulled over by 4 police officers and severely beaten 56 times with metal batons. While police beat King, George Holliday recorded the event. This video goes on for another minute. On March 15th, 1991, a grand jury indicted officers Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wynn, Theodore Pisano, and Stacy Kuhn on charges of assault with a deadly weapon and excessive use of force. While the trial was originally set to be taken in LA, lawyers got it moved to Simi Valley on the basis that there would already be too much media coverage and the officers would never receive a fair trial. Here in Simi Valley, the jury, all white except for one Asian juror, would clear all 4 officers of all charges. On April 29th, 1992, the riots would begin. Just minutes after the verdict, Mayor Tom Bradley would make his statement saying, "The jury's verdict will never blind the world to what we saw in that videotape." Within the next few hours, police would have to retreat from Florence Street, where the riots had officially begun. This would lead to white trucker Reginald Denny being beaten by rioters with a tire iron, a fire extinguisher, and a brick. He would later be saved by 4 people using his own truck to escape. By the end of the night, a state of emergency was placed in LA, and the National Guard had moved in. On April 30th, Los Angeles was completely shut down. No one was allowed to work, mail was stopped, and a stay-at-home order was placed. By noon, 2,000 National Guard troops had been deployed throughout the city. And by midnight, with a curfew in act, 6,000 more troops would be on their way. The third day of the riots introduced the arming of the Korean merchants. Black rioters had targeted the merchants for an incident that occurred 2 weeks after King's beating. This would later be stated. A small peace rally would begin, and outside of his lawyer's offices, Rodney King, the man whose beating would indirectly start the riots, spoke up, begging for peace. By the end of the night, 4,000 more troops would be sent to Tustin and El Toro. The fourth day of the riots brought over 30,000 people calling for racial healing and an end to the riots. A curfew would be held over LA indefinitely, and by 4 p.m., Marines would enter the worst part of the riots, Compton. On the 5th day, Reverend Jesse Jackson arrived in Koreatown to try to calm the tensions among the rioters and the merchants. And finally, the riots would end. Mayor Bradley would lift the curfew, and the city of LA opened up the next day. There would be $1 billion in damages, 55 dead rioters, and thousands of arrests. Before the LAPD was notoriously racist and corrupt. The force was 60% white, and their job approval rating was sitting at an all-time low of 34%. How successful an officer was based on how many arrests they made. After the riots, a massive purge of the LAPD started. The Christopher Commission, started by Mayor Bradley, would help change the LAPD forever. Due to the commission, the chief of police position was no longer a lifetime position, but elected every 5 years. This forced the current chief of police to resign. This would lead Bernard Parks to becoming the chief, and he was a significant player in the reform of the LAPD. Parks was helped by the Department of Justice. The majority of the anti-gang unit was either fired or arrested due to corruption. Within 25 years, the arrest rates had significantly fallen. Hundreds of more hours of training were enacted. Accountability of officers was also enacted, and the force went from 60% white to 30% white. The culture of LA played a big part in why the riots occurred. In 1982, 10 years before King, another black motorist, James Mincy, was killed when an officer suffocated him with a chokehold. The chief of police at the time banned chokeholds, saying that black people couldn't handle it like normal people. Karen Toshima, a 19-year-old student, was shot and killed in a gang war. She got caught in the crossfire. Police responded by hiring thousands of officers, a mass arrest of anyone associated with, and arresting anyone associated with either gang. The rap group NWA had released Straight Outta Compton. This would prompt a look into the LAPD, but also cause more of a racial divide in LA. The economic divide did not help the culture either. While the elite got special treatment from the LAPD, the lower class got targeted. And the main reason why the Korean merchants were targeted was because of an incident that occurred just 2 weeks after King's beating. Latasha Harlins was a 15-year-old African American who was attempting to buy orange juice from a Korean market. The shopkeeper, Soon Jadu, had accused her of attempting to steal the orange juice, even though the money was in her hand to pay. After an altercation, Harlins attempted to walk out without the orange juice, but Du shot her in the head. The case was taken to court, and Du was found guilty of manslaughter. The jury had recommended the maximum of 16 years. However, the judge only gave her 5 years probation, 500 hours community service, and a $5,000 fine. During the riots, the Korean merchants would be targeted. After the riots, the LAPD had a massive overhaul, which helped the racial tensions among the citizens of LA. Also, the racial population gradually changed over time. The Latino population had a massive boom in central LA, while South LA still remained to the African American community. Laws were not specifically changed, but enforced better. And police were finally not exempt from the laws anymore. They also had massive accountability on them, with body cams and a new policy allowing for the LAPD to post excessive force on any instances of excessive force on their website has helped them with the community. Hundreds of hours of more training was in place, and enforcement is a big part of that training. The LA riots changed Los Angeles forever. The riots represented a breaking point in the city that was opposed and taken advantage of for too long. Los Angeles was truly cleansed by fire.